Ron?
All right, good morning. Call the meeting to order at 7:38. Start off with roll call. Let's see. Alderman Brian Johnson. Here. James LeBoomerite. Here. Chad Van Handel here. Moving on, approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Moving on to regular business, we have a item consideration from Voyager Sourdough. This was a previously approved credit. We are currently in asking for updated terms and revising the loan amount to be $60,000 at a 4% interest rate for a 10-year amortization, with the first 6 months being interest-only payments for purchase of restaurant equipment and a new ownership structure for Voyager Sourdough. The restaurant equipment will be used as collateral for the loan along with personal guarantee, and we have received all supporting business documents. I think from there, do we want to open it to the floor, or do you want to give any discussion?
I think that pretty much summarizes it in its entirety.
All right, move to open the floor for interested parties.
Second.
Do all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the floor is open. Feel free to kind of give a synopsis of what's going on.
What happened since last time? So, as you know, in startup business world, expect the unexpected. Changes can happen, and a couple of months back, Kevin and I, the previous business partner, decided to part ways. It happened a little bit unexpected, but something that I think in the end, after it all happened, was the right thing. I think it was always my vision to open the brick and mortar, and not really something that Kevin probably fully had his heart into. So the timing was right. It was very close to, obviously, had the approval from the city, and we were very close to getting the approval from one of the banks. So it was good timing that nothing was signed and it didn't happen several months later, because it would have been a little bit more of an issue. And so once that happened, then Celeste, my wife, was helping a little bit with the business, but after that she's kind of stepped in and plays now as large a role as I do in the business, basically. Not on the baking side, but everything else that happens in the business. And yeah, so we've kind of turned it into a real family business, and we're both very passionate about this project and excited to get it started. It took us a little bit longer then to renegotiate with getting the rest of the funding. So in the end, we pieced it together with Bank First, and also the owner or the landlord, I think it's DDL Holdings, or the base companies are loaning part of the money too. So we have everything we need. It's a little bit higher than what we had originally asked for, because I've had more time to do deeper budgeting and understanding the real costs of the business. And as I got into deeper conversations with the contractor and everything that needed to be done, maybe I hadn't built a brick and mortar in the US before, and plumbing is more expensive than I thought, and all those bits and pieces. And once you kind of get to the final piece, it was like, okay, it's going to cost a little bit more to actually do the leasehold improvements. So in the end, the total project's about $120,000 to get open, and I've been told by the contractor everything's ready to go. We just need to basically pay now the deposit for that and buy the equipment, and it's an 8-week build out. So if they start within the next 7 to 14 days, I think we'll be open around Christmas time, and I would imagine by the time we get licensed, open to the public at the beginning of the year, 2020. So good time to open and start a new project in the new year. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we've been at.
Do you want to just give you were approved by Bank First and you closed on that loan?
Yes, last Friday.
Last Friday.
Yeah, so that money's in the bank, and so the way that it will be done, I think everything from the landlord and the bank will be used on leasehold improvements, and everything from the city is on equipment. Obviously, the large chunk of the money is going towards the oven. It's $32,000 oven, and so it's like buying a car. It's the size of a car, basically. So that's going to kind of be the center of the room, and it's open to see for everyone that comes into the bakery. So. Yeah, and then there's other little bits and pieces, so that money will get spent quite quickly.
Do you have an equity contribution that you're making as well?
Yes, so it's 10% as part of this revolving loan fund structure.
Okay. And then what is the term of the lease then?
It's a 5-year lease.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I've negotiated it in a way that it starts at a much lower rate than the target price they're looking for, and it builds up over two years, and eventually by obviously the 3rd year it's hitting its full amount. Yeah.
I did put a copy of the loan, or the lease, in the packet. Just for the record.
We can't open the packet.
Well, that's, okay.
I can't at least.
I'm
You
sorry
guys
about
can.
that.
Yeah.
Good to know that there was an issue with that. So.
And then did you build in renewal options on that lease
Yes, there's one automatically in there. Yeah.
for 5 years? Or?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think it's down to 5 years the option, or I think there's a couple of options in there.
And the reason I'm asking is because it's a 10-year loan.
Yes. Yeah.
I was going to say, unfortunately, there's probably a little bit more involved in what we can, but this is good to make sure we have at least the information that you're asking for.
Yeah. I mean, my goal within 5 years is to have more than one venue anyway, so.
And so it's 120 is the total project. I think the bank was coming in with 29,000 was
Yes.
the bank, and then
And the-
what's the base? What's base companies?
19,000.
19 of that?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that? That's 20, 50 there, and
Yeah.
then 60, and then 10, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then I thought, was there a Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah, we did that in last June, so we have that, obviously that money is in savings, and some of that will be used for this
Okay.
project, and then the rest is for working capital.
Okay. So you-
Obviously, with the end of the partnership, some of the money donated was given back to Kevin's family and friends, and so I think I was left with about 24,000 out of that. So yeah, it's sitting there waiting to help this business grow next year. Obviously, we'll need some working capital, and everyone always says expect there to be some extra things that you need your money for as you start an open business. So I think it was a good timing to do it. You know, it's been there waiting to be spent.
So, I mean, do you think the bank then is open to doing additional, like a line of credit at some point, or? I mean,
Yeah,
do you see any swings that you're gonna need, kind of that, some kind of a cushion throughout the year?
Yeah,
or-
well, the landlord has offered a line of credit for $10,000 on top of the $19,000, and I can access that fund anytime I want. So, yeah, at this time, the bank wasn't willing to do it, so I'll sit down with Aaron at Bank First in 6 months' time and review everything. And, you know, if we need to refinance, borrow more, restructure anything, those options are obviously there. I think they really they wanted to be part of it, but they were only willing to do that amount based on, you know, our personal financial guarantee and wanting to see how this business grows next time.
So would we then have the first lien on?
On the equipment.
Yeah, they're not taking any collateral on the
Okay.
equipment. They're
Okay.
taking a collateral on our personal securities.
It's
Yeah.
pretty much a signature loan for the bank,
Yeah.
so we're in first position on the equipment.
And just a heads up, they do have 2 5-year renewal options.
Okay.
So, I mean, you got the space locked up for 15 years.
Yeah.
Just curious, if you're thinking of expanding beyond this at some point, where would that be?
Well, I see the opportunity. I mean, obviously, it's kind of a fluid thought, but I can see multiple venues, perhaps Appleton, maybe Door County, and further afield. I mean, it really depends. This is kind of like the test to see what customers like and things like that, and if you can manage to cookie cut that and replicate it elsewhere, I think that would really be the goal. And so I think that artisan bakery with pastries and what have you, and simple sandwiches can be replicated quite nicely in various venues, and you see that in many markets across the world, really. So, and also there's, I have many ideas of how maybe the brand would expand rather than just this artisan bakery. So it could go into other things to do with food and beverage. Those things will reveal itself in time.
So you're going to serve coffee at the bakery as
Correct.
well, right?
Yeah.
And maybe sandwiches?
There'll be simple sandwiches, and there's about 15 seats, I guess, in total in the space for people to come in, sit and have a bite and coffee.
So we're really focusing on creating a healthy takeaway food option as
Takeout.
well. Takeout.
So let's now uses some
Yeah.
British vocab.
Food options. So one of the concepts that we are modeling off after is called Pret à Manger, which is more a European brand, but now found in all train stations, airports, etc. around Europe, and also they were around in Hong Kong. But it's high quality takeout options. So while being fast and convenient, not lacking in any sort of quality of the ingredients that go into it. That's something that we have felt ourselves is a great market opportunity here, and something that we're excited about building out, and then being able to really expand that portion of the business around the greater Fox Valley and Door County, et cetera.
How optimistic are you about just adding employees and having a good pool of applicants available to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of unknown to that because
Right.
we haven't hired too many employees. We have one contract baker at the moment, which I will have to, after we open, move to get him more full-time basis. And we've just hired 2 part-time delivery drivers this week. And then, yeah, I think there's definitely good people out there. Even when we just posted on our Instagram a few weeks ago that we needed help with deliveries, we had about 5 or 6 applicants, all great young people wanting to help out. One lady that works for Luna, one lady that works for a local school in Kick-Ass Cheese, which is a local cheesemonger, and so yeah, good people that I think we'll be able to find. I think we've built up a little bit of a following and momentum now that people are interested in what we're doing, and I think we'll be able to find good people that share our vision.
All you gotta do is put them in a bicycle with a basket. I mean, I have a truly,
Yeah.
European
Exactly.
feeling.
Yeah.
I've been talking to Pete's Garage about doing a coffee and sandwich delivery powered by Pete's Garage, and then have someone that delivers downtown Green Bay coffee and sandwiches by like an electric bike, and then maybe you can order in an app, and then we kind of send it out, set app, maybe once every hour or something. The bike goes around.
Just to see the deliveries around town would be really fun.
Yeah.
But I think you're smart to be looking at ways to generate revenue outside of your walls.
Yeah.
I find oftentimes that's where businesses hit a little bit of hiccups, especially the restaurant businesses. They rely on the customers to come to them.
Yeah.
And the marketplace has just changed.
Yeah. Yeah, because I come from an internet world, and you call it online to offline, O2O. It became very popular the last few years, and it's starting to. In Asia, it's very popular. You're starting to do it here, but you order online and you go to the brick and mortar to pick it up, or vice versa. You can go to a brick and mortar; they might not have it in stock, and then they deliver it to you later. And that whole blending of online and offline, I think you have to apply that to every business these days. It's not just traditional shopping that is happening.
Yeah.
And you've got, an accessible space, which is nice.
Yeah.
So for your customers that do need to come in and one thing I would maybe point out on that front is if you ever find yourself in a situation where parking continues to be occupied,
Yeah.
talk to your alder,
Yes.
which is not me actually.
Oh, yeah.
Alder Scannell
Yeah.
is that particular area, but if you need to have like a 15-minute type of parking spot designated, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind if it does
Good
become a
to know.
challenge for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we had discussed about having the opportunity for people to not have to maybe get out of their car if they just wanted a quick coffee to go. So maybe that might be handy. Luckily, that's one of the reasons we chose the rail yard of the cannery building there, because at least parking is good, and people generally don't have a problem getting into that building because there is plenty of parking, and I'm sure there is going to be more over the next couple of years as everything gets built out there.
More questions?
All right, motion to close the floor?
Second.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
It's a little
Motion
awkward,
carries.
only 3
With
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Sounds like do I have to be on that vote?
Yeah.
All right, any additional discussion on this?
And it seems to me to be pretty low risk. Obviously, restaurant, there's always, risk is always inherent, but I think when you can grab the equipment, I think he's got a proven business model, he's got a track record, he's got customers. I know there's a demand for this type of product in our community, and I think when you look at sort of the purpose of this loan, it's really, I've always looked at it as it's to help accelerate those businesses, right, that are kind of in that mode where they just need a little bit of assistance, that get financing, and it checks all the boxes for them.
Yeah, I would agree. Obviously, initially that don't like to see these changes this close to things, but again, things happen, and certainly we understand that. It's a good structure from our standpoint.
See, I think it actually makes it better.
Mhm.
Partnerships always
Right.
inherently come
That's a good point.
with challenges that sole proprietorships do not.
Yep.
So,
Good point. Somebody want to make a motion?
I would move to approve the terms, $60,000 at 4% interest for 10 years, with the first 6 months being interest only.
I'll second that.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Those opposed? All right, so moved.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Hopefully this is
Thank
last time we see you for a little while anyway. So.
Well, hopefully for a coffee soon, or
Yeah.
a pastry.
I was gonna say, I hope it's not. I don't
Yeah.
wanna see you back here asking for more.
More,
yes,
This
yeah,
is
exactly.
booming and you need growing capital.
Well, that's definitely the next time I want to see you. Yeah, besides inside the cafe, but yeah. Yeah, we have lots of plans to make this a great business, so we're looking forward to it.
And you're making the announcement today?
Yeah, it's going to be in our email, so the only thing that I haven't actually managed to get a signature of is the actual lease, because Paul has been on vacation all week.
I was with them.
Yeah, I don't know if it was vacation, he didn't actually specify, so.
That was a work trip.
A work trip, yeah, so I think he's back this morning, and he just sent an email saying, I think we can get it done, so I'm going to see if I can pop over and see him this morning. I have to go to the building there anyway to meet a chef at the cannery quick, so maybe we can quickly get it signed and come back and give you the copy.
We'll follow up with getting the paperwork signed and
Yeah.
everything, so I don't know what your schedule is today, but we're gonna finish our meeting real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just hang out for 10 minutes, 5 minutes more, and then we'll go through our last little bit here.
Yep.
All right, next piece of business is just the status of the current open accounts. So we got the spreadsheet there in our packet. We want to talk a little bit about historic west.
Yeah, so we're following up with them. I don't remember if you remember last time, it was August and September, they were behind. Mid-August, now we got up to September. They've been paying, they've just been slow paying.
Sure.
So I know they had some internal issues with employees and things like that, so they're working through those, but they are structuring, so that's the reasoning for the lag. But I reached out this morning, I just haven't heard, so I'll follow up with the committee following that, whatever I find out. Okay?
Sounds good.
And I will follow up as well with legal on item number 3, the Cineva's closure piece to that. I know that there was some timing where she was checking to see, there was some postponement of hearings and things and stuff, and I don't think we got notification of anything else, so I'll double check with Lindsay where we are on that. That's kind of a strange lag, in my opinion, too, but there may be some reasonings for whatever's going on with that.
Did we not resolve that at the last meeting? No.
We just said to
We're
have
still
staff
waiting, yeah.
pursue, if they're, because we weren't listed, and then we found out that we were listed.
Mhm.
Then there was a hearing, but it was canceled, and so we haven't heard of a reschedule of that hearing. So we were gonna at least go there and
Okay.
be represented, even though there was nothing left. So I'll double check on that.
Well, there's the historic West, hours of the business doing.
You know, we could ask him to come forward at our next meeting to give us an
Just gonna
update.
lay on a couple of payments,
Yeah, let's have him come forward at our next meeting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if it's performance or if it's just administratively there.
Well, if somebody's
Slow.
stealing, I can understand not having the cash to make the payments, but.
I'd like the information to come from him, because from me,
Yeah,
it's like
okay.
secondhand, and I'm only probably getting a portion of it, where I
Yeah.
think, but let's add him to our next meeting's agenda, and that kind of helps also kind of keep everybody in good communication, instead of just email and text and those sorts of things. So we'll add him to our next meeting's agenda. We will be having a meeting hopefully shortly. But that's the, and then the second part of it is the EDRLF. Is there anything that you wanted to add on this one, Stephanie, since you prepared all this report and do all this work on this?
No, things are moving nicely. We do have money to get out the door.
That's something worth mentioning, and I'm gonna try and get something out to that, but we do have funds. We had 2 pay off, as you see, Reynolds and Gather paid off early, so we have $335,176.54 to get out. We'd like to get it out before the end of the year. I asked for additional funds. Actually, the 1st of December would be ideal, but I asked for additional funds, but I really am not entitled to additional funds if I have funds still available. So with these late in the year payoffs, we have additional funding now to get out. So I have to get this out in order to get more HUD funds.
If only there was someone from the media that you could talk to.
I was thinking the exact same
Get
thing.
that word
I'm
out.
gonna just
Channel your, yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna think
Channel your-
hard and hope that we can, that yes, I'm sure there's a business or 2 or 3 out there that are needing to find a revolving phone funds. I think we just have to communicate that out to the community.
But
And
it's
we've been
still-
saying it to different things, so we'd love to find a project that we can participate in.
So when you talk about gap financing on that piece, can you just maybe give me a little bit of context? And maybe you guys
And
are
the
fully
committees.
pressed, I'm not sure, but how is that defined?
Gap financing?
Well, I know what it means, but like how does,
You know,
like a
it's-
bank will give you 10 and you can ask for 150, or like, I mean,
I think we'd like to see the bank take a bigger piece, and that was another concern I had about this one, although again, with us having the first
Right,
lead,
right.
so.
And typically our loan structure, let me just say, if it was $100,000, just to make it a nice round
Yep.
number, typically the city would never come in for more than 50% of the whole project, so that's still our guideline there. So we would come in at 50,000 or 49,000, somewhere in that range. We would want participation at least a 10%, at minimum, could be higher amount, but that's the threshold. We often will have, and a bank will often want the 20%, so some of ours is gonna sometimes offset some of their down payment portions of that, and we're okay with that. And then a lender will typically come in at, say, that 40%. So if we have a 10% personal equity, we have, or that's their, their cash injection, and then there's a 40% from a lender, and it could be 50% of ours. That has been a kind of a scenario that I began with. Lending has really taken quite a twist and turn because there's so many other resources that people have other than traditional banking or lending or whatever is that credit union, whatever is their resource for that. But wherever their lender is, it's just so different
Yeah,
because
exactly.
credit unions didn't do commercial lending, and there wasn't crowdfunding, and there wasn't all these other resources that are coming into it. And leasehold improvements are a big deal, especially with the restaurant, because they sink all these costs in it. If they leave, that landlord still has all that investment. So for them to be part of the plan now It's just we're seeing that more with restaurant and tenant improvement build-outs. And so there's just a handful of things that are going on in the lending world, I think, just looking at that. So gap financing, we still want to have, I think, many layers of financing. So that capital stack should be solid, it should be from great resources, it should be from lending resources that they actually can have support from. So I want them to be involved in some type of a professional lender that's going to be either a bank, a credit union, or some other capacity like that. It's okay for them to be working with their leasehold improvement because the landlord probably has interest in it anyway, and so I'm thinking that that's also a formula that we're starting to see more of. We have 3 businesses going into one property that had been vacant for I don't know how long, and now there's going to be 3 new businesses in the next 90 days in one property just because the property owner is getting involved in the financing of the build-out. And so,
Vested interest.
and so those are not HUD guidelines, those have been internal guidelines as far as our thresholds of participation. And what I'd like to do is make sure that the formula makes sense for the business that's presenting. So if it's a restaurant and we have a large tenant improvement, which is usually the case with ventilation and other plumbing expenses and things that are probably more than just having a bookstore, say, go into it, or a store that would have not as much improvements needed, office user or something like that, that's not going to be a good formula for them, but if there's going to be something that participates. So it has to make sense, I think, for us to be able to bring to the committee.
How does it work with operating capital?
So working capital, it's just a signature loan. We often don't need a collateral piece for that. So that's $35,000 for working capital. It's structured different than our gap financing. That can just be, they can come in, well, we classify that most of our funding will come in as a gap financing piece. Working capital is a different thing. So that's another category of lending for us. So this is gap financing, but working capital is $35,000. It usually is a signature loan. We sometimes have taken collateral for different early startups and things like that, but it could be a personal guarantee could do that, and we don't have to have another lender involved with that.
So to Chad's question with Voyager, and the line of credit, they've got one obviously with the landlord, but they could, in theory, come here and ask for that as well.
Right, and he's going conservative because he doesn't know what his employment structure will be. He's growing, and all of a
Well,
sudden
he's
he's
paying
growing
his drivers
faster.
now
Yep,
as
so
opposed
now
to-
he had
yeah.
volunteers, so his structure is growing fairly quickly. And so that's why he's saying maybe I will need the working capital, but I like the fact that he's been very conservative with his asks, and we can start at the 45, even though he knew that potentially 60, but he thought, maybe all these pieces will come together and I can try and do that. But he's getting more and more of a better picture, and he had to buy out his partner as well,
Right.
so there was some other resources that were used. So
There's no
to answer your
prepayment,
question,
right? So he could, anyone. It is
and
somewhat
you
dependent,
can take it
anyone.
out, so it's probably better, and you can always come back. I always tell them, if you wanted to have conservative estimates, because this is what you have available to you today, and come back, that we're willing to hear that. We know that startups, you're taking your very best guess, and sometimes that's very close to the number, and sometimes you've been made aware of some other, now you need to sprinkle your building, it's $100,000 extra for this historic building, or something comes up, but then we can come back and hear that again. So I try and keep them as conservative as possible, because I don't want them getting in over their head too early. They can always prepay. But to try and find that sweet spot of a threshold, I think is very careful, but we work through that and we look at that. Most of those are internal guidelines that we've put together. We still always want to have a lender, but they're going to need a lender, they're going to need working capital, they're going to need a lender at some point in their business, and so we want them to have that structure in. We want them to have an accountant, we want them to have business partners all the way through and get them structured. So we're moving them from kind of just getting started to actually all of the parts and pieces for the long haul. And they can change those things around. It made more sense for their loan to go with the bank first than after they had gotten a better lending structure with them. And they had looked at them initially, and then had this other one, they gave business to the bank that was in the same building they were in. And so then they went back to the original lender that they had worked with. So just by the way that the relationships worked and how that worked out. But very good questions, and I'm not sure, gap financing, when we do our larger loans, that's what we're working with, and then if it's working capital is different, but I also, when they get working capital, I want to make sure that there's a lender involved somewhere in the structure, that they have a good relationship with them. I often will meet with them and their lender to find out where everything is going, how they're working with that. Could that working capital go through the lender? And if they're maxed with what the lender can give, then we start to look at other venues that we can participate in, if we can help grow that business. And if it's going to bring on additional employees, is the other factor.
Do we have any brochures or sales literature on the
Yes,
different
we have
programs
all of that.
available?
Yeah, I'd be happy to furnish all of that.
If you could send that to me, please, that would be wonderful.
I'll send it to you via, and there's nice rec cards in the hallway that I've been passing out like tissue. So hopefully participate in something really exciting. But we have a lot of great businesses that we're working with.
The other piece that we don't want to leave out is that we lend the gap, but they also have to have that piece that HUD requires, which is the employment.
Right.
So they have to be able to make those employment things, and it's $35,000 per employee. So if their gap was greater than that, but they wouldn't have the employees for that, we still would only be able to match that employee.
Is that audited?
Yes, it is. We report that to the federal government. So that's like the number one HUD requirement is this job creation piece. So when you think of this money, it has to be job creation. Most of the other rules that we put in place are internal regulations and our guidelines and our underwriting and just internally. And so that was organized through our loan committee and staff and put some best practices together and put that together. But it's really interesting, and I'm sure Chad can attest to this, that we're seeing financing come in from spots that I've never heard of before. And so these new resources are interesting. But
Cabbage, Cabbage has been out there. I mean, the SBA, some of the projects, just an online, basically online.
you get a loan, you just go online and apply. And so
Major financial
we're
stuff.
kind of trying to cross with being open to new ideas, but I think this is a traditional loan program, and it helps our businesses really have a good base when they
Even
say.
some lenders want to take on more. I mean, we're seeing situations where they could go SBA and get this guarantee. And it's a little bit more clunky, but then we've seen lenders just take the risk because they need the loan
They don't wanna-
outstandings and they don't want to,
They don't want to deal with all the SBA, but there's lots of varieties of things. So I'm seeing all kinds of other lending packages, so I'll bring ideas to the committee, and if we need to look at our guidelines a little bit, just with the newer lending options out there, and make sure that we're in alignment with what is the community's need, I think that will be something that we'll probably look at in the next probably 6 months, because things are changing very rapidly in this industry.
A few ideas I'd like to kick around
I'd
with
be
you.
happy to meet
Yeah.
with you, Brian. All right. Does that answer your question for now, or?
Good
It
job.
does. I guess I never fully understood. I mean, I knew these categories existed. I never fully understood what the requirements were. So,
All right.
All right, and then with that, we will move to adjourn. The motion,
So moved.
second?
first and second in favor,
Aye.
opposed? All right.
Thank you,
Adjourned.
everyone.
Badger Brewing must be smiling with that announcement of emergency development. That's
Oh,
right
yeah.
in that neck of the woods.